Well, welcome, Brad and Emily. We are now live with Social Assurance, streaming on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. But more importantly, we're going to be talking about the spirit of Community Spirit Bank. So welcome. For those of you who, for some reason, don't know who Brad and Emily are, Brad is the president of Community Spirit Bank and has been in the news a lot lately. So I'm excited to get your perspective. And Emily Mays is a communications director over at Community Spirit Bank, and some of the most social friendly people in community banking are with us here. First of all, Brad and Emily, can you just tell us a little bit about Community Spirit Bank?
Good afternoon. It's good to be here. I would normally say ladies first, but I guess I'll let Emily welcome. Then why don't we get into the community spirit? How about that?
Sounds great. Emily, can you tell us a little bit about how you got in the position you're in at Community Spirit?
Yeah, I actually back in 2013 left a too big to fail bank because of an office closure, and came the polar opposite in the financial world, to a small community institution. Did not know really what a community bank was, had always lived in a big city for most of my adult life and was just sort of used to the bigger banks and things like that. And man, what a culture shock. I would jokingly tell my family when I first started at the bank, like, I have to reset my whole mind every day to work in this sort of environment. It's so different from what I was used to. So definitely a blessing in disguise when that opportunity came up.
Yeah. And Brad, how did you end up in this role at Community Spirit?
So Community Spirit chartered in 1908. I am a second generation banker. So you'd say, well, that math doesn't quite work if it's a family affiliated bank. And that would be true because back in 1908, 15 investors came together, saw the need for if their community was going to grow, then they needed a community bank to be there to help guide that way. So they pooled together about $15,000 in resources, and Community Spirit Bank came to be in June of 1908. So the bank has been a fixture here in Northwest Alabama, Northeast Mississippi, because we do sit right on the Mississippi line. The red is from the red clay, and the bay is from the bay trees. So a lot of people think we're on the Mobile Bay when you say Red Bay, but we are actually on the other end of the state, 45 miles south of Tennessee, and our city limits actually borders Mississippi. So we've endured a lot: Great Depressions, World Wars, and the Great Recession and whatnot. So my father got a job here while he was in the Army in the 70s. He will celebrate his 54th anniversary with the bank in May next month of this year. So started with very humble beginnings, the son of a cotton farmer, and actually pulled the sack through the cotton fields, pulling cotton out of the cotton bolls. So very much humble beginnings. And there's a story that he calls Honesty Pays. And, we've got that framed in different things here, that my dad in high school saw a gentleman drop a $20 bill at a baseball game. And he went under there to get that $20 bill and had full intentions of keeping that $20 bill. But his character wouldn't allow it. So at the end of the game, he went up to that gentleman and said, "Sir, you dropped this $20 bill." And the gentleman said, "Well, what's your name?" This is in the 60s, I guess. And he tells him Billy Bolton. And so, the interaction was, "Thank you for being honest." And so he didn't hear from him for, years later. And he gets a call one day from this gentleman named Mr. Flippo, who was the executive at Bank of Red Bay at the time, and said, "I know you don't, know me or remember me, but you picked up a $20 bill and gave it back to me when you was in high school. And you're the type of character of people that we want working for us." And so my dad, who had no experience in the business world or whatnot, you know, went home, talked to my grandmother and my mother at the time, and they encouraged him to go and, you know, sit down and talk about it. And he took the job, went to, he was in the Army at the time, Vietnam era, had to be deployed to Texas, comes back then later and works his way up to the bank to become the president. And was that until 2011, whenever he turned the reins over to me. I've got two sisters and a brother-in-law that also works here. So I grew up in the bank, but I mean, truly, that's how the story of the Bolton family and the Bank of Red Bay Community Spirit Bank came to be what it is today, and for all that has been accomplished was from my dad having character to return a $20 bill. I mean, that's just it's an awesome story that I think bears to be told for his sake. And so that's a long story. I'm sorry to say that throughout high school, then I worked here off and on, have done just about every job in the bank, change light bulbs, take the garbage out, mow the yard, still mow the bank yards. But now I mow the yard with my son, Brady, who has taken over some of that duty. And so now I simply have to drive him around to those yards, and we have good times. Taught me good work ethic, so hopefully it's taught him good work ethic as well. And not every day that you see a CEO of a bank with a blower on his back or a weed eater in his hand at one of the locations, but about every 2 weeks from spring till fall, you'll see Brady and I doing just that. So that's kind of who we are. We're Southern born and Southern bred, as the song would say, and proud of our heritage and proud of what this bank has stood for through the years and the impact that it's had on the communities in which we serve. And truly, there's been a lot of great leaders at the bank before us, and we're just fortunate enough, all of us that are working here now are carrying that torch until the next group takes over and hopefully continues having the impact that previous leaders has had for each one of our communities. So didn't mean to take that much time, but
I love it, Brad. No, and I think it's such a genuine story that I mean it's remarkable, really, when we think about your dad starting with a $20 bill he returned. That was a good investment on his part. That was definitely a good investment, doing the right thing. And we've been seeing community spirit in the news lately. So obviously you've been on the news, and I want to get to that story because I think it's really important. But for all of us, I've never been to Red Bay. Can you both help me understand? Emily tells me I need to come so that we can go kayaking together. So you can hold me to that. We're going to find some time to do that. But tell me a little bit about the community. What's it made up of? What's sort of been the drivers of your community there in Red Bay?
Hardworking people. We are known for two national companies, three actually, but two are homegrown here. Tiffin Motorhomes, which is home of the Allegro coach, the #1 Class A manufacturer of motorhomes in the country. Elkhart, Indiana is the hub of a lot of RV manufacturing, but Red Bay, Alabama is the second hub, and that's because of Tiffin Motorhomes, who, that's a whole nother success story in and of itself there, from people who were running a cotton gin when cotton took a turn for the worse in the 70s. So Tiffin Motorhomes is our largest employer in Red Bay. Second would be Sunshine Meals, which is a dog food and cat food company with, I think, now 7 locations across the Southeast, but headquartered and created here by the Bostic family here in Red Bay, Alabama. Third would be, so manufacturing base, and then second, agricultural. A lot of poultry houses. We have Pilgrim's Pride and Marjack are two of our big companies there. So, people are hardworking people here in our area. They are God-fearing people, and they are very family oriented people. You'll see people throughout our county. We say that we survey 4 rural counties in northeast Mississippi and northwest Alabama, and that's Tishomingo and Itawamba, which is Indian names, obviously, with a big heritage of that in Tishomingo and Etowah County, Mississippi, and then Franklin and Marion. We do touch a little Colbert, but Franklin and Marion is kind of our bread and butter as far as Alabama. So people are involved with their kids, like everywhere, but it just, youth league sports are huge, high school sports, football Friday nights, basketball through the week and the other time. So certainly everybody's adjusting to not being able to enjoy that time of competitive nature with their children. So, Emily, you might add something else to the community fabric.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of places like Red Bay. I commute from a smaller, more rural community every day over here. But in the time I've been on this side of the county, I just can walk in, getting stuff for a bank event, have my hands full, go to leave, and your hands are full. Just we'll send it to the bank. Don't even worry about it. Like everybody, if you work at the bank in Red Bay, everybody in Red Bay just knows it's taken care of. Just carry on. So that's a very, very unique experience. It feels like a family everywhere you go in town. It is your picturesque small town America. The other areas that we spread into, I live over on the other side of the county, and kind of the typical same thing, a little more rural, more farmland. You probably know if you follow me on social media that I live on my parents' farm now, after living in college towns for most of my adult life. So that's just common nature to see the tractors in front of you headed to work, log trucks everywhere. It's very much a agricultural based area in all of our markets. But there's really nothing like Red Bay. So I may eventually have to move over to this side of the county.
Yeah, well, you've got a bunch of fans that are chiming in on social media. So thanks. A lot of familiar faces in there. Just welcoming all of you. So I wanted to shift and talk a little bit about understanding your community, and I've got a picture of some of it. Of course, following both of you on social media, you're so active in a lot of these events around town. And different things that you do. I'm thinking of the Griswold family Christmas. I know that was part of a parade both of you did. Tell me about this car. How did this come about? Because this is something that I followed on social media, made a number of comments about, but it was super fun and just felt like it was a great personality that both of you brought out.
Well, the car itself is one of our old doctors in town, Dr. Z.L. Weatherford, who continued to buy stock up throughout his early years of practicing medicine door to door, no less, back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Became a majority owner of the bank at that time, and that Jeep is actually his Jeep that he drove around up until his death. And so the Jeep had gotten, it's a 1974 Jeep Cherokee 2-door. And so it had gotten in the hands of one of my customers. And he had tried to get me to buy it from time to time. And so he finally come to us and said, listen, I'm not going to restore it. I think y'all should have it. Do you want to buy it? So we bought it and then we restored it. So that's the story behind it. His name was Zadok. Z-A-D-O-C, Zadok Weatherford. And Dr. Z.L. Weatherford is his name. And a lot of things in town, he left a lot of endowments. Our library in town is because of Dr. Weatherford. We've got a arts and entertainment center that we call the Weatherford Center in his honor. There's a building across the street. So Dr. Weatherford was one of several doctors and that made a huge impact on Red Bay. He actually served in the House of Representatives at one time, and it's because of him and his leadership that we had our some Bear Creek Lakes, part of the tributaries that we kayak on, that you mentioned, is part of the reason Dr. Weatherford roads coming in here, huge impact that he made. So that's the story behind that Jeep. And then whenever I think it was the Christmas before last that Emily and some of the team members here decided to put that in a parade at a little town called Phil Campbell. I think was first, wasn't it, Emily? Is that where you took it first?
Russellville may have been first. Yeah.
So she actually went full out in Eddie robes, the whole works, and a lot of the employees that were at those locations chimed in, had a lot of fun with it, and then it's just kind of become a tradition, I guess. Emily can speak to that as far as putting a tree on top of it and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely has become tradition since we've had the Jeep. And the best part is when we have the parades on my side of the county, I get to drive it home and park it at my house and drive it back to work the next day. So definitely get to ride in style. But and that's the sort of thing that we do continually. We talked about at the beginning our history books, and who would be the people after us. And I love that our institution is so proud of our history. We actually have the history books. And so one day when we document back, all of us will be part of that history. And we document everything the bank has done all through the years. And you can physically go back in our time capsule and just look at everything and carry on traditions like the Jeep that happened before our time here at the bank. So very much about tradition.
And I take a lot of that for granted myself. I get so busy with the details of the day. And luckily, my sister Tammy, huge proponent of that, has a lot of the history books. And my mother actually doesn't work for the bank, but that's like one of her missions. That
she's a historian.
Cutting out stuff, laminating it, keeping in books and stuff so that we will have that. So I certainly don't discount those avenues because it's because other people preserved it. That one of our videos we did during this pandemic, I told Emily, I said, I want to do a video and we're going to do it in front of one of our old teller blotters. And it was the original one from 1908 that we've still got, big old teller blotter. You can look back on our site and see it. But it's just pretty cool that history has been preserved. And we're certainly proud of what the bank stands for now and preparing always for the digital footprint going forward, but it will never replace our relationship model that defines who we are and who community bankers are as an industry. And I don't think that part will ever change, no matter how much technology that we embrace. But it's just cool that we've still got all of this history that defines exactly who we are, not only as a bank, but as an industry, because there's stories like that all over the state. My buddy from Brundage, Alabama, he's a 5th generation community banker. He posted a video last night on social media, or his bank did, showing back to, I'm a butcher it with John will kill me. I think it was before the 1900s, maybe 1890 something that the bank was created. And so, there's stories like that all over this country. And those community banks are just the bedrock of communities. You take a community bank out of a community, and it's like taking the lifeblood out. It just dries up. ICBA, through my time with them, one statistic that's always stuck out to me is that without community banks, 1/3 of all U.S. counties would have no physical banking presence. So if me and my other local community banks here, Valley State Bank, CB&S, 2 in particular, good core community bankers, that if not for them and us, then Wells Fargo, Chase, they're not coming here, nor would they care, what happens here. So that's the important and the fabric of why community bankers are so important in the communities in which they serve. And I'm sure we'll get off on payroll protection here shortly, but we've just got real life examples of why that's important.
You're right, Brad. We might have to talk about that, but I appreciate you sharing your allegiances, and you have some other people sharing some allegiances with you as well.
That's my banking parents right there. That's my 2 banking mama and daddies that have guided me outside of my own parents. That's my second parents right there. That's my banking parents, and I love y'all.
That's awesome. So as we kind of go over allegiances and different places, you sort of opened up, Brad, at the beginning and said, you've been through, your bank's been through world wars, has been through some really tough times. Clearly in the South, we think of industries like cotton that have certainly not always been easy industries to be a part of. And now here we are at another really difficult time. And I not only get to see you on social media, but I start seeing you on 24-hour news networks as well, talking about it. But I'd love for you to update us a little bit on what has this latest crisis meant to you and to community spirit right now?
Well, it's really given us an opportunity to be as an industry, community banks, including Community Spirit, to be a beacon of hope and just a sense of assurance and stability for the communities in which we serve. Making the decision to close these lobbies was one of the hardest things that I encountered. I fought it off as long as I thought that I could, and whenever these doors hadn't been closed since 1908 as far as during normal banking hours and whatnot. So I know all banks struggled with that, but at the same time, you had to take your employees' safety and health into account, as well as your customers and whatnot. So I think that during this, you saw lots of bankers that was getting out there with videos, with assuring messages. And, we had a real opportunity there to remind folks that since the FDIC had been created in 1933, that not a single depositor has lost a cent, period. And so, in times of uncertainty, a lot of people does get scared and think that, well, great grandfather told about whenever the banks failed in the 30s or whatnot, or before that during the Great Depression. And so we had a real opportunity just to be that sense of stability, number one, I think. And then leading into the weeks that would follow, thankfully, the regulators were proactive during this crisis, unlike that they were in the last. I'm not saying that they've got everything right, but they did get out in front to begin with and say, hey, work with borrowers who have been affected by this crisis. And so as bankers, we're always going to do what's in the best interest of our customers and worry about the regulators later anyway. I mean, that's who we are. But it was assuring that we wouldn't have to worry about them coming in and criticizing over, modifications and whatnot. So I think that most community banks in general didn't need the guidance. We were already ready to do it, but it was assuring that we could, help customers and put payments off, defer payments. And I've talked to bankers all over this country who are sharing the numbers of modification that has been done, and it's significant. And then I'm hearing from other people who say they've called up XYZ or XYZ mortgage company or XYZ tax exempt people that I won't speak of that hadn't really gave those same benefits. And so it just gave us an opportunity to really differentiate who we are every day, not just during a crisis, but every day. And as we led into the CARE Act being passed, leading into early April, community bankers just rallied like I've never seen them before, from email chains that were going out there, but helping each other. Networking is what defines ICBA in particular. You go to an ICBA event, and it is the networking that leads to the education, that leads to the whole experience. And it is community bankers helping each other, not only here locally, but throughout the state and then throughout the nation. So by each of us helping each other, we were able to help our customers. So leading into the CARE Act, then getting ready to fund all these small business loans that needed to be funded, nobody knows their communities and their customers better than a community banker. We live with them, we work with them, we play with them, we worship with them. And so nobody was better equipped to handle that than a community banker. Now, we had some challenges, some people that were still on the outside as far as bankers with the SBA system. We had our own issues with that. And Emily reminded people on social media of the excitement of the high fives when we not only got in the system on that Monday night, but a few days later, me and Emily and Brooke were in Emily's office, and we got our first loan guarantee, which useless now. It wouldn't even. Anyway, I mean, when we pulled that first guarantee down, it was like, yes, we got it, And so, then the days that would follow, not only all of the loans that were funded that we saw, I think the Treasury Secretary last Sunday said that community banks of less than 10 billion, I should have had that stat there before me, that had funded 10 billion or less. It was like 60% and 20%. It was just a huge number that community banks that had funded these small business loans. And so we have saw the negative press that has come out since the CARE Act of some less than desirable tactics that were being done by some of our larger counterparts, that just cements the fact that there has to be a clear and distinctive voice for community banks throughout this country, because you can't speak on behalf of the big boys, Chase, Wells, and speak for Community Spirit Bank in Red Bay, Alabama, and my customers. We serve two different distinct customer bases, and they can do their thing, we're going to do ours, but we have to face our customers every day. As president of this bank, the decisions that I make, decisions that Chris Jordan out in Oklahoma does with his customers, he has to face them too. And so we have an accountability that maybe our larger counterparts doesn't, and that's what drives who we are as an industry. So, just a sense of stability, and then just being there for our customers when they needed us the most, and working around the clock. I mean, my team here has just went over and beyond to make sure that our customers have been taken care of. And you've got a real sense of accomplishment, and certainly the appreciation that these small businesses have given to each one of us and to community bankers across the country, as far as what we've been able to do. So I'm just so proud of the industry, and what we have accomplished now thus far, and what we're fixing to accomplish in the next few days, because we're geared up, we're ready. Thankfully, ICBA worked extremely hard with Treasury and SBA and Congress to get that carve out for community banks. The 30 billion specifically for 10 billion or less, and then 30 billion for up to 50 billion or whatever, that we don't have the automated systems. That's what people need to understand, of why that was important. So I'm reading what my best friend on planet Earth is Bill Weatherford, by the way. So I'm proud that he's learned how to tweet out that small town America doesn't exist without independent community banks, and Community Spirit Bank, under all of our leadership, I say, is the best of the best. So thank you, Bill, for that. But having that carve out, man, is the most important thing. And I'm telling you, if you don't have that trade association, and this is not I can't speak without speaking for ICBA, because I believe in what they do. It's almost like they're partly in my blood, just like Community Spirit Bank is in my blood, because I know that if I don't have that trade association working every day in Washington, D.C. for me and other community banks across the country, then nobody else is going to work for me. And I can't be there, So they got that, it was them and our state affiliate partners helped work Congress to get that done. And I'm just so thankful that we don't have the automated systems that we can start loading applications right now that will automatically just flow into the system. Everyone that we put in is one by one. And our number one girl, Brooke Gleason, got that down from when I was interim, it took an hour. And by the time we was done, what was it, Emily? She was doing it within 10 minutes. So yeah, I feel good about where we are there. So anyway, that's you're going to just stop me because I just start talking.
You're great, Brad.
But, there's a lot, hopefully you got out of that, of what I think we as Community Spirit Bank and community bankers across this country were able to just show off what we do every day. I mean, this was the reason we adapted so much for it and was able to do what we did, was because this was nothing new to a community banker. This is just what we do every day. It's just fortunate that we've been able to be in the news and tell that story more on a national level than what maybe had been granted to us before. It's encouraging whenever you see media going on these national shows, not just bankers, not just community bankers, but just media people saying, you know what, the community bankers are getting it done. And so that's a testament to my brothers and sisters all across this great country.
Now, Emily, obviously, Brad's got a tremendous amount of passion for community spirit and embraces that spirit at a high level. It's inspiring. I wish I was in Red Bay right now. I'm thinking I wish we could have this conversation right there to really engage and activate what you've got in community. But Emily, how do you take that and help people to understand Brad's passion and the hard work that everyone's doing at Community Spirit? How do you share that? How do you evangelize that in a place where they can't all meet Brad every day?
Right. Lately it's been more challenging than others, obviously, because you're kind of in is it a redundant message? Is it a useful message? Are we giving them something of value that they actually can use, or is it just pushing out content and something they're already seeing all over Facebook and everywhere else? But I think just we're very consistent in our messaging about who we are, and that's a full supporter of all of our communities. We are always sharing the good, sharing what's going on, how we're playing a part. Like you said, you see us on social media, we're everywhere, in our communities in Mississippi and Alabama, and all of the events, and we share everything. They kind of feel like they know who we are as an institution, as bankers, before they ever come through our doors or start even doing business with us. And other bankers as well said, I feel like I know everybody in your bank, and I like that. I feels like our mission is accomplished with us sharing that message. And I love that, a local community event sends us a notice because they know we're going to share it on social media and make the public aware. We're there for them to do that. It's part of our fabric of who we are. And just melding that message, and we just keep a very consistent, positive tone, and always want to give them confidence in who we are and what we are to the community and what the community means to us. Because without them and the customers, we aren't Community Spirit. So they are what makes us unique, and so we want them to be highlighted as much as possible. And like Brad said, everybody is such a close-knit community. They can look to us and know we can help when they need it. If they need help with their social media, or they need help with, whatever the case may be, they can call our CFO with a question directly and get straight to her. When the doors are open, you can walk straight in and ask to see the president of the bank. And if he's not got somebody else, you're going to see him. So I think it's really clear in our messaging that is who we are all the time. It's not just something we say, we actually live that out in every way that we can. And all of the employees do as well. All of our team members are active in their communities, their churches, they're doers, they have children, and all of the sports and activities. So it's just a very close knit, and they continue that message. They're at the basketball game, but somebody has an account question. Well, they're going to answer it if they can. Or if I'm at home on Friday night and it's coming through on Facebook, a question, if I can't answer, I'll have someone here the next morning to take care of that. And they consistently know they can reach out, and we'll be here to help.
I love what you said about seeing everybody, seeing everybody from the bank. Like I think 5 people at your bank, and here we are halfway across the country, and I feel like I know them and could ask them a question at any time on social media. And it actually, you bridged right into our friend Natalie had a question, and she said, both of you have developed personal brands as community bankers. Tell us how you developed those. I think you already started to say why you developed them, but tell us a little bit about how that's worked into who Community Spirit Bank is, and how you've related to your community.
Well, I could go back to the people that really got me engaged as far as social media is Jill Costilla at Citizens Admin, and then Ann Chin, who used to be at ICBA at the time, who was the marketing director out there. And then she went to work for Jill later. So I will never forget one April, which was Community Banking Month, by the way, another plug. I went to all of our offices, and I think we was sharing cookies or something with people. And so I went one Friday maybe to all of our offices and just had selfies with, it was, I guess maybe social was just kind of really taking off, or maybe it was just in my eyes or whatnot. And so, one thing we want to be, we're the old bank, but we also want to be relevant to the new generation. And so one way that we try to do that was obviously all things digital, trying to implement technology where that we could. But we've always felt like that we had to be where the customer resides. And we all know the customer resides here, on their phone each day. So had a real goal of speaking directly to the customer through, first of all, obviously it was Facebook, and then those two ladies I just mentioned, Jill and Ann, showed me the importance of Twitter. And so I started tweeting out from that point. And then you got such a direct access from an advocacy point to your local representatives, other bankers, trying to get them energized and engaged to reach out to their delegation and whatnot on important community bank issues. That it was all driven to me to put the bank in a more forward-looking digital footprint, and that was a way that we could speak directly to our customers outside of the normal mediums of billboard, newspaper, radio, or TV, or whatever. So it was always attractive to me from that perspective. But those giants of social media, those ladies, and then Emily, of course, was already out there on social media before me, and she's pushed all of us to get on out there and, of course, share our brand, share what she's pushing out there, encourages our employees who, for the most part, have embraced it. And there's a word for it. Emily can tell the brand ambassadors or whatever, I guess, that does that. So, any following that I've got is nothing designed. It's just, I just tweet out relevant stuff of what I'm passionate about, which is community banking, and trying to give a message there for our customers, our employees, just a total engagement there. But I guess it was all, to me, submitted in trying to reach that next generation of customer. And then Emily has certainly taken that torch and taken it far more than anything I could have ever done or asked her to do, as far as from setting us on a great stage for all things digital and social media. And, we have so many bankers, even locally or, in our area across the state, that will emulate the programs that she's put in place. And that's the greatest flattery that I think that you could give someone, is imitation. And they put their own spin on it and brand and whatnot. But I've just told you, Jill is one of the reasons that I've got so much engaged in social media. And so I still enjoy watching all of the girl bankers. I've got a next generation girl banker that's coming in. Brooklyn graduates Mississippi State next week.
Wow.
Have the graduation ceremony, but I'm a big fan of the Girl Banker blog and all things that she's doing to promote women in the industry and stuff. So anyway, that's, there's a lot of people that does a lot better job than me as far as that goes, but that's kind of how I got. So Emily.
And I would have to include Ben in that original set of our own little brat pack of social media banking group. I can remember very early on following everything Social Assurance and Ben was putting out there. And like you said, Ann and Jill, and back in 2013, 2014, when I can remember going to an association meeting and we were the only bank on social media. And that's all I wanted to talk about was how we're promoting, our bank on social media, but we were the only one. So, and at least now that has changed, and that's good. And as far as the personal brand side, I think it's just something I really enjoy. And the bank has such a good mission and a good message. So it and we're sharing so much consistently there. And I like to share so much personally, it sort of bleeds into each other because we're always busy with bank events. And, and like Natalie's platform, and my message is, this is my mountain and this is how I move it. So if I can take, the junior leaders that I work with through our Chamber of Commerce, and they're following me on Instagram and can see me go to this, enormous bank conference, and they're following along and learning what someone from a very small town, farmer's daughter, can go do these great things, they can too. And I think just sharing that everyday story of, this is what I do, this is how I do it each day, sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, because people would much rather see the bloopers and the outtakes. And we shot a video this week out of our new ATM. And to me, the outtakes are much more entertaining than the actual finished product because it's real life. And I think just consistency is the key for us. We're consistent with our bank message. I try to be consistent with my own message. I think Ben can probably attest to sometimes when you work in social all day, you can get a little bit burned out or kind of just tired of sharing. Yeah. So, but I think just showing others, this is who we are, this is who we really are, and how we like to do things. And, if they like to follow along and see, that's great. And if not, that's okay too.
I think that's a great thought, Emily. I think you've been incredibly consistent. Both of you have been incredibly genuine. And I think that's something that's come across from halfway across the country to me, is that both of you have been incredibly genuine about your care for your community, your care for each other, and your care for just the community as a whole, right? As you mentioned ICBA and other community banks, and even people like me, or just out here sharing on social media. You've shown a lot of care. I did want to share a comment that came in on Facebook, because I don't know if you knew that Brooklyn was going to come on full time at some point. I don't know if you told her that.
Oh, that's news. Looking forward to it. That's that young lady has been working here as a teller since she was 15, I guess, maybe 14. I know 15, and she actually started out in here, I guess, working with me, putting loan committee packages together and typing up loan committee memos whenever she was still in high school. And then she started working through college and would work on the teller line and stuff. So just super excited for her passion that she has for the bank and for our communities. And just, Lord's blessed us with 3 good kids. And she's I get emotional here. I'm just blessed. I'm just blessed with it. And so she's well liked with our community as well, because got a good outgoing personality, and I hope she always keeps that and keeps the customer first and foremost. So just excited for her to come join us. Got a niece with us too. I mentioned my sisters and my brother-in-law, but my sister's niece is here as well. My sister's daughter, my niece, Kaylee, Kaylee girl is what we call her. So we're certainly blessed. But even though we're a immediate family, this, we're 40 something strong family that, through the ups, downs, good, bad, ugly, we pray for each other. We're there for each other. And, every family is going to have disagreements and times whenever we get on each other's nerves or frustrate each other. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, we rally around each other. And I'm just so proud of our whole team here at the bank.
Well, that's beautiful. I've always felt just like I could connect with both of you because of that genuineness. And I wanted to share just a little bit. Transition. I wanted to have you share really. I got to watch a little bit on 24-hour news networks of you sort of informing our president about how this PPP program was going. And I shared a few things with you kind of privately that I felt like it was really an inspiring time, but not very many of us have the opportunity to speak directly to the president and say how community banking is going. And I thought I was inspired by the way you shared, not just that you shared the status of how your bank was overcoming some significant challenges in that week, but also sharing your care for our government and their tough decisions. And I actually, as in hearing the audio, I thought to myself, I feel like Brad would say the exact same thing to a small business in his community that he just said to the president. And I thought that was just this moment for me where I said, that's community spirit, and that's who Brad is. And if I was sitting on the other side of the table as an entrepreneur, I feel like you would say, hey, Ben, I'm praying for you as well. And so maybe you could share a little bit about that experience. What was that like in preparing for sharing that moment on live TV? What was that like?
Well, I was certainly blessed to join our chairman, Noah Wilcox from Minnesota, on that call. And of course, Noah's our chairman now. Our chairman-elect is Bob Fisher up in New York. And then I'm vice chairman of ICBA. So it's through my affiliation with them that was given that opportunity. And probably a lot fell to me because they already had all those big New York bankers on there. And even though Bob is just a rural New York banker, he's still a New York banker. So, appreciate, the opportunity that, that's probably the reason that it probably should have been Noah and Bob, but it just happened to be me because I was next in line there. And there was just too many New York bankers, I guess. I'm sorry, Bob. Bob's a good New York banker, by the way. So, got the word that it was going to happen. And so I was just, we was told from the White House, it was supposed to actually happen on a Thursday before. And so we was told from the White House that you had 2 minutes. Now, you cannot go over 2 minutes. You understand what we're saying? You've got 2 minutes. That's it. So we had to prepare remarks. And it was actually the week before was going to be on our response to the pandemic in general. So from Thursday to what day was it, Emily? Tuesday, the next week, payroll protection rolled out. And so our message had to change as far as Noah and I's message had to change from still had banks on the outside looking in of that SBA portal. So, they still wanted to talk about overall what you had been doing in the pandemic, and you had to turn your comments in early and stuff like that. So, but you had 2 minutes. So Noah went earlier than me. So I'd listened to some of the other guys, and some of the big boys were just going on for 3-4 minutes, and so the pressure kind of got off a little bit. That okay, well maybe I'm at the best I can deliver is 2 minutes and 25 seconds, which Prez Kennedy, our former ICBA chairman, would say that you and everybody else needs to have this closed captioning running so that you can understand this Southern drawl. So I don't know how that's working out for you, Ben, or the rest of them.
Oh, I'm good. I got you.
But that's Prez's statement, which Tim Zimmerman says that's the pot calling the kettle black, because Prez is from Louisiana. So he's I'm getting off the topic. So, we get we have to log in through a secure portal. And so you have to be sitting in front of your computer here for 1 hour prior to this thing starting. And so, just sitting there waiting. And then, the event starts, and then you start hearing everybody come across. And certainly my chairman, Noah, hit it out of the park with his comments, first of all. So, he certainly told the message needed to be told. And then, I'd sent our prepared remarks to not only the White House, but to our media folks that works with us at ICBA, and was hoping that nobody would squelch what I wanted to say, how I wanted to end it, and nobody did. That may be me. And so had the opportunity to, just tell the president after I'd advocated for the things that we needed as far as getting everybody in the SBA portal and letting community bankers go, because once community bankers started loaning the money, whenever we make half of all small business loans as an industry anyway, prior to this problem, you knew that once we started funding money, it was going to go like gangbusters, because that's just who we are as an industry. We are small business lenders. We are Main Street lenders. And so got to relay that message. And then I just ended it by telling Mr. President, I want you to know I'm praying for you. I'm praying for your administration. I'm praying for this country and praying for my fellow community bankers and the customers in which they serve. And so, meant it. And he, did respond and kind of made a joke that he didn't think the New York bankers was praying for him, but he appreciated that. So I do think that it took him off guard a little bit, or surprised him that statement. And it wasn't a statement that was made to draw attention. It's just how often you get a rural country banker like me gets to talk to the President of the United States. And so I just want him to know that I'm praying for him. And, I was talking to one of my directors who's a real good guy here that, he's like, you need to, if people ask, they just need to be reminded that praying for this president, we didn't just start praying when this president became president. I mean, that's what believers are supposed to be doing, is praying for, their, those that are in authority. Because, the Bible tells us that nobody is in authority that wasn't put there by God. Now, that could be, through good times, through bad times, whatever. I've been fortunate, been on the city council here in Red Bay since 2008, in my third term on that. And my dad was 2-term mayor, 1-term city council before he was mayor. So I know, what it means to have the prayers of people whenever you're going through tough times and whatnot. And so I just wanted him to know that people were praying. And it was a good example, because the way that caught him off guard, I told my kids that we take this for granted here in the Bible Belt, that we say that and we mean it. Someone gets cancer and you say, well, I'm going to pray for you. A friend of mine's wife had breast cancer surgery yesterday, and, you say, I'm going to pray for you. Or if someone lost a loved one, we had someone that passed away this morning. And so it doesn't have to be something, other than just voice that to the Lord. And we have faith that he believes it. But I told my kids that this is a good example that we take this for granted here in the South, in the Bible Belt, if you will. But the world doesn't see that, and the world doesn't hear that very often. And that's, I guess, what struck me the most is that we take it for granted, and the world really just doesn't know how to process that sometimes. And I think whenever he heard it, it surprised him, but hopefully it encouraged him, because I truly hope that we all are praying that this virus leaves us. I hope that we depart this and come out of it on the other side stronger, but maybe more humbled. That at the end of the day, we are reliant on nothing but the Lord's grace and mercy to get us through this. And hey, I fail every day, so I'm not anything. My mouth gets me in trouble. My action gets me in trouble more times than I want to talk about. So I'm not sitting here, holding a Bible, waving it, beating it on everybody's head or anything like that. But I do believe in what I believe, and so just was thankful that had that opportunity, and I truly hope that it encouraged him. And it's hopefully will encourage people to pray that we do get through this thing. So that's kind of the story of how that it came about, and certainly am honored that had that opportunity to speak, to join NOAA to speak on behalf of the nation's community banks and tell that story, and then was just use that as an opportunity to encourage folks to pray for the country, this administration, regardless of who's in power in the White House.
Well, thank you, Brad, and thanks for your leadership, you know, of your community bank, but also, you know, extending that outside of there, within your community and here really nationwide. I kind of wanted to use this comment that our friend Autumn had as a bridge a little bit too, to just say, you know, Brad, you did a great job, and you sort of had this moment because of who you've been in community banking, and you had this 2 minutes. But Emily, how did this process go as communication? Like, I know you shared a few things as we were chatting, and you know, in our social bankers group and different things. To, you know, obviously it was a crazy day, but there was a lot leading up to that. How did you think about it? What was this like, kind of preparing the communications for all of this?
Well, definitely the pressure. I know I shared with our social bankers group after, you know, I needed to lay down on the floor after he finally, and I'm in my office, and, you know, there's a little delay, and I'm microphone, like, you know, is his microphone muted? You know, I'm in here pep talking through the process. Of course, doing something like that is maybe one time in your career, you know, to connect your boss to the White House. You know, who knew so many steps had to be involved in that? Myself and our IT manager, Donna, you know, we both, prayer was happening continuously. You know, and the pressure there was, we knew, like, say we lost connection, or he didn't get his mic on in time, or they didn't get him unmuted, you know, there was a bank on the line that didn't even get to speak. We did not want that to happen, you know, for Brad, for this opportunity to sort of have to slip away for him or for our bank or for our industry. It was just a very important moment, and a lot of prep. You know, I think me and Brad went through his speech 5 or 6, 7 times, you know, timing. We practiced it on a video call to try to be as prepared as possible, you know, making sure he could get it all, everything he needed to say in. And the technology side is always difficult, getting, you know, the technology handshake to happen, and you know, you're second guessing what the IT manager's doing, and she'd probably like to tell me to just be quiet. But a lot of prep, you know, moments like that truly are once in a lifetime, and I think just we're so thankful that we had the opportunity and that everything worked out. And we all survived. You know, then we had the Fox News interview the following week, and so Brad and I are both here at the bank at 5 a.m. and, you know, and kind of trying to get him synced up and ready for that call. And moments like that are part of our history. You know, that's what I told him. I said, you know, getting up at 3 o'clock to get over here by 5, but we may never do this again. You know, these opportunities, we would be glad if they do, but it is part of our history books. So we'll want to be a part of it and, you know, enjoy those milestones. They're definitely something that make you proud to be a community banker, proud of who you're working for and who you're working with, and thankful to be working with such a good, caring team.
Yeah, my hat's off to the ladies here that has helped me along the way with that. You know, those two things in particular had to have a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and I can't thank Donna and Emily enough. And then, you know, I could name off dozens, Phyllis and Rhonda in particular, that's keeping the fires out while I'm in here doing something like this, or having an opportunity to do this or the other things, you know. So, you know, just it's a total team effort, and I can't thank them enough for that, because it was pretty stressful getting logged through FEMA to get to that White House, and things not working, and Emily and Donna snapping at each other. I'm snapping at them saying, well, you just got to make it work. So, but it all came out very good.
Then we all get to celebrate together. So that's good. Then we all rush to Brad's office to go in there and not social distance, but celebrate.
That's right. And I tried to get Emily not to come at that 5 a.m. thing. I said, listen, it's all set up, it's ready, so don't worry about it. It's gonna be okay. And so I wasn't expecting her to be there. And then the door opens at 5 o'clock, and she's here. So was glad that she was here once she did. But I did try to get her off the hook.
You know, I don't think you would have kept her away. I don't think you could. She's there for the big moment.
That's right. That's right.
Emily, well, thanks for all you've done to serve that group, to serve our social bankers group. Tim had some shout outs there for you a little bit as well. There are a lot of people in your corner that both of you, we've really held you up as heroes for this industry and really heroes for your community. So thanks for all that both of you have been doing, and thanks for spending about an hour with us as well.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I'm no hero. I think Emily would say the same thing. We enjoy what we do every day, and it's a great story to tell. Community banking is a great story to tell, and I'm just I can't have offices throughout the state. Don't think I'd want that pressure or that responsibility, but I feel like I do because I got such good friends throughout the state that I know and have confidence that I can pick up the phone and tell somebody in Talladega, Alabama that Chad Jones is going to take care of them, or Ozark, Alabama that Chris Harper is going to take care of them. And, I had from the Fox business interview, I had calls because I am accessible. That's one thing that our team has been totally accessible throughout this, but that's one hallmark of us is we want to be accessible and we want to be responsive. So it's one thing to be accessible, but then you don't follow up with somebody, right? So, you want to provide that wow moment that we're not accustomed to getting, in many interactions with retail or whatnot. So had 2 calls there from people that found me on the website, and then they called, and one was from Los Angeles, California, and one was from Dallas, Texas, and said, "Well, I can't believe you picked up the phone." I said, "Yeah, it's me." I'm happy. And so those 2 instances was people who was working with big banks that couldn't get their application processed, and the one in Los Angeles sent him in the right direction. The one in Dallas actually knew Cynthia Blankenship and sent that guy to her, and her bank got it done. So here in Red Bay, Alabama, via Fox News, was able to help somebody in Dallas, Texas, because of a community banker named Cynthia Blankenship that's out there. And that story could be retold throughout this country. So even though we as individual community bankers don't have offices throughout the country, we've got friends throughout the country. And so we can get customers taken care of. I have full faith and confidence in that. And so you can go to icba.org and find that community bank locator and find your bank there. For our social bankers that's out there, you can affirm that your bank is out there, and then direct your customers to it, because we're no different. We just happen to be on here, but bankers are getting those questions throughout the country. So anyway, Ben, I feel like I've talked for 50 minutes and Emily's talked for 5, so apologize for that. Don't want to step over.
I'm concise.
I like to talk, so you asked for it. So I do thank you for giving Community Spirit Bank this platform to tell our story. But truly, our story is no different than community bankers throughout the country. We just happen to be hopefully telling that for the nation here. Anybody's listening, and certainly appreciate what you do for community banks. Social is important, and I've always told other bankers and other board of directors members, whatnot, that we've got to go and reach customers where they live, and where they live is on social media platforms. And so, no better way for them to hear from us than on those platforms. And then finally, my last plug, and then I'll let you end this, is that those social bankers that are out there, it's time. I mean, it's time for you guys have the platform. You guys have the following. I know you're passionate for our industry. So get involved in ICBA. Get involved in the advocacy efforts. Push that stuff out there because we have shown through this crisis just how bright the community bank star shines, and we got to use that now to tell that story. Go out and retweet those links when ICBA calls contact Congress, and it's so easy now. I mean, you got an advocacy issue that's important to community banking. so easy. Just go out there and 2 clicks of the mouse, and you've sent 4 letters to your delegation or something, and then retweet it and then say, hey, if I'm in Missouri, Aaron Panton's out there and he tweets out and said, hey, fellow Missouri bankers, join me in this. So those social bankers right now, it's going to either be leading, running, or managing your banks in the next 5-10 years. So it's on our shoulders as social bankers, if that's what I am, to carry that torch, because it will be up to us that is in our positions right now to make sure community banks are here for the next generation. So it's on us, and we've got the extra platform of social media to do so. So all that, a 5-minute close to say thank you, Ben, for allowing me to share that and share my passion and for what you do for all of our bankers. So join me. Let's tweet it out.
Well, thank you, Brad. We will be tweeting it out. I know Emily will be tweeting it out as well. I can't wait till the time where I can hug you both in person. Hopefully that will be soon. But in the meantime, stay well. And thanks for all you're doing for community banks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.